Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're playing the new Poor Man's Gwent seasonal event, which is an alternate game mode in which all of our gold cards get transformed into random bronze cards, which basically means it's a bronze-only event. But that doesn't stop us from dealing lots of damage, so let's go take a look at the deck. So today we'll be playing a Skellige Patricidal Fury Warriors, sort of Pirates, damage deck with all bronze cards. That way we know exactly which cards we're going to get. Technically, you could use Reckless Flurry if you'd like. Both options are pretty solid. And the deck overall is pretty simple. Basically, we are loading up on lots of damage and, in a few cases, ways to play cards from our either hands or graveyard. And as I said, a bit of a mixture between warriors and pirates. Greatsword is one of the few cards we have that is more boosting / healing oriented, whereas almost everything else is about the damage. Freya's Blessing, another way to play cards from your graveyard. Stunning Blow, biggest source of direct damage with one potential exception. Feral Bond, way to play more cards, deal more damage. Longship, play early to set yourself up for lots of damage. Raiders, Point Slam in later rounds when the veteran has procced a few times and damage as well. Bearwisher Mentor, the other card that is boosting oriented. If you have damaged a whole bunch of units but not destroyed them, then this can be a huge Point Slam. Warmonger, Point Slam of the damage variety. If you have a lot of Bloodthirst on your opponent's side, this is where going with Patricidal Fury can be really useful because it's pretty easy to get a bunch of damage cards on their side of the board, even if your opponent has done some boosting or healing or has armor. Corsair, more damage. Brokvar Archer, this is the other card that has a lot of damage potential, especially if you combine it with leader ability charges to get more damage cards on your side of the board. Warrior, lots of damage. Seagull, damage and some carryover potential, which is pretty rare in a bronze-only event. And that's really all there is to it. So, for the most part, it's all about the damage, with a few little nifty tricks to play extra cards from our hand or from our graveyard to give us a little bit of extra flexibility. Carryover from the Seagulls being a little bit unusual, and we do have some very high-tempo either boosts with Bearwisher Mentor or damage with Brokvar Archer and Stunning Blow, helping us round out the deck. So let's go see it in action. Alright, so going up against Skellige here, and they'll go first. Alright, so this is going to be a tough matchup because with Onslaught, they have the potential to get a bunch of armor on their units, and that makes it much harder for us to deal damage. And not only does that reduce the number of points our opponents have, it also makes it difficult for us to activate Bloodthirst abilities, which we have several of. So that means this could prove quite difficult. War of Clans is good, but not so good in round one when we are unlikely to have things in our graveyard. Granted, they're going to have damage as well, so maybe that's still okay. I think Drummond Warmonger is perhaps a little bit too risky in this matchup, but otherwise, sure, we'll make this work. Okay, Bearwisher Adept is not the kind of card I was expecting to see. Okay, so, in which case, I mean, we could always go Longship. I mean, not only do they likely have pirates, they're of course likely to have, well, they might have raids. They probably have some raids. So, I'm just wondering, how likely is this Longship to be immediately answered? Well, we're about to find out. We shall see. Okay, damage, yes, but not as bad as we might have anticipated. And now with a couple of damaged units on the board, it is possible for us to do some more things, like Feral Bond is not bad now. Seagull, we probably want to wait a turn, and similar with Brokvar Warrior. So, Deranged Corsair has some potential as well. Okay, so, yeah, I mean, at least at the moment, I am pleasantly surprised by how easily we've been able to damage their cards. So I think we go Feral Bond and just add to the list of stuff. I think we'll add the wolf to that row, because I'm not thrilled about trying to damage the Witcher further when he could potentially heal that damage off. As for what we want to go with here, that is a great question. I mean, case could be made for a War Crier, because they definitely have some damaged cards, and are likely to have damaged cards for a while now. So, I think we do that. I think we do. Okay, there's their own Brokvar Warrior. As we said, they're going to be breaking out some damage as well in all likelihood. But now, with 4 damaged cards on the board, suddenly, we could do some pretty big plays with Seagull's not bad, but I'm actually eyeing Brokvar Archer here, because if we were to get a couple of leader ability charges, we could get 6 damage from having 6 damage cards on their side of the board, remove that Bear Witcher Adept, and suddenly their biggest card and the card that is most difficult to get rid of is gone. So I think we do 1 and 2, and then we go Archer, remove, and now we still have great targets for the Corsair to go after in that melee row. Deliberately tried to flood this row with stuff that can get destroyed in anticipation of that, because it was not likely that we'd be able to destroy that Bear Witcher Adept with just the damage from the Cataclysm. Okay, on Craite Greatsword. I was gonna say, if they kept it on that much power, was definitely removable. Although, what did they get rid of? Is still just barely out of reach here, I think. So we could hit it for 3 damage, hit you for 2, and then the damage stops there, which is still not bad. Deranged Corsair can't remove you in 1 turn. Leader ability can't help us either. So I think we might even take this turn to go Seagull? I think we will, to tell you the truth. I think it's 1, 2, 3. We'll get the Seagulls out, but we're keeping good targets in that melee row to set up the Corsair. Not a lot of total points in that row, so it's not that good. I assume they're going to find a way to deal damage and therefore boost up this Greatsword. Okay, they do get up to Bloodthirst 2 with that hit. So that's well done. They might be about to play Corsair. Okay, they fortunately do not have Bloodthirst 5. Although that was still very good value. For what it's worth, we have Bloodthirst 5, though unfortunately our Warmonger is still hanging out in our deck. So this guy is getting pretty huge. We obviously have a Greatsword as well, and we could technically still have enough time to get the full healing on him if we were to follow up with things like Corsair and Brokvar Warrior afterward. So it's not out of the question we could still make that work. Wish you would destroy this guy so we could get him out with War of Clans. That's what I really want to use with this, but I think we will go Deranged Corsair here. Potentially get Skellige Wolves on our side of the board, which could be useful. We will. Set up more Cataclysm. This gives us a little bit of a way to boost up the Greatsword on the same turn we play him. They're going to use, Megascope to replay. Okay. Or get a 10 base power version of him. So that is going to be worth a lot of points on their next turn. So we play Greatsword here. He'll get up to a 5 at the end of our turn, but they're about to get a 10, plus they potentially could get more healing here, and they obviously are not inclined to play anything else in this row, so that's the downside, is why I was saying we probably would have liked to have seen even more stuff show up over here. Is this still doable, though? It might be. And this is kind of asking for them to try to... It also heals you, but I think that was going to get healed up anyway. So getting at least 1 point of boost I think is pretty big. Yes, they were relying on that 10-point play being enough to be able to pass, but I'm not sure that that's the case, because they no longer have any ways to damage us, so they're not going to be getting any more value from these guys. We could always go leader ability. I'd rather not do that. Brokvar Warrior has a lot of potential here. I think that's what, 5, 6, 7, gets us to 21 plus the healing, wins us the round. I think you do go in this order just to maximize the amount of heals on you. And we will win round 1. Okay, so we did play one more card than our opponent in the previous round, so in all likelihood looking to dry pass here because we are respectful Gwent players here. Longship is good in a long round 3, which is another reason to dry pass so we can get good value out of that. Then we have some tempo from Raiders. Abordage, yes, has some pirates we can use with that. And then War of Clans, we have some cards we can get out from our graveyard with this. We do still have some bigger cards we might like to see, but I think we can settle for the time being. If we could draw into either this Greatsword or Freya's Blessing in round 3, that would be nice, but these are all good. So if we see just this type of stuff, I think we can make that work as well. And at this point, the other advantage we have... Ooh, Funeral Boat. Okay, that's good to know that they're using that. The big advantage we have as well is that our leader ability has more tempo than their leader ability at this stage. Okay, and we draw into Bearwitcher Mentor, who could be a nice finisher for us if we can get a lot of damage cards. The X factor is how much armor did they get on their cards in round 1, because they did damage several of our cards. So that makes me a little nervous about breaking through that armor, although having at least 1, possibly 2 stunning blows could certainly help. And can we get the Death Wish to trigger on the Deranged Corsair? Or are we just going to have stuff that's damaged and not much beyond that? I think we try. Yeah. Switching you around. Do we have other good targets for that? We've 1, we've 2. Yeah, we've at least 2 decent targets for it. Okay, so I think this can work. Would have probably liked to have seen a way to get the Greatsword out here, but I think we can settle without that. Okay, so you have 4 armor. That's probably a good reference for how much armor other cards are likely to have. Granted, that's pretty much only if they had a card in their hand in round 1. Round 1 went a little bit long, so anything they drew into round 2, round 3 will not have any armor, so might actually be in decent shape here. Obviously, we'll start with Longship. That's a good engine for us, but they might have a way to remove this. We'll have to see. Okay, Boat Builders. Giving... Oh, don't like that. Don't like you giving armor. Think we have to get rid of Boat Builders. That's not good. That is very not good. Okay, so... Can we make it happen with War of Clans? Hit you for 2 damage directly, and then... That's not quite enough. That is, but it's pretty wasteful. So, because we can't break through this armor. So I think that means we're probably just using a stunning blow on you, which is not really the way I expected to use this, but... I mean, they were going to get armor one way or another. Rather than getting armor from their hand, they're getting armor from this card. So I think we still, either way, need to get rid of that. Oh, we also had a Seagull hanging out in our graveyard. I totally remembered that. Granted, this is going to help them get more armor by continuing to damage our units. But that is one potentially tricky thing. Oh, okay. For a second, I thought they were going after the Longship there. But they got solid value. But the tricky thing is if they keep cards damaged on our side of the board, obviously they do want to remove this Longship because it is an engine. But if they keep things damaged but not removed, then Bearwitcher Mentor becomes bigger. So that is nice. So we could use Stunning Blow, get rid of your armor, and then suddenly they might be a little less inclined to use this Longship. It's, sort of neutral value, though it is still helping them get armor on the units in their hands, so not exactly. I think we might be looking at maybe a Abordage into a War Crier here, because that'll be a card that gets boosted in there for... Or not Abordage, War of Clans. So it's a little bit harder for them to get this damaged and set up their other units. I was originally hoping we would go Warrior, Archer, but I think it might be a little bit hard to set those up. Speaking of Abordage, it is enough, and whatever they play here will probably have decent armor. Well, at least a little bit. On the Corsair, they might use it. Get the boost there, they will. Of course, it means less armor. They'll use leader ability. Okay. So, now we do have 3 units on the board. So it is possible to do things like play Brokvar Warrior. Granted, you have 2 armor, you have 2 points of boost, so that still doesn't work very well. Unless we go with War of Clans, hit you into Brokvar Warrior, hit, hit, hit. That does work. Or, yeah, that does work in that order. Want to make sure we... Yeah, I think that can still work. Hit you. This is why I was saying Brokvar Archer was going to be a little bit tough, because as you can see, at least until we did this, there were not a lot of damaged cards on their side of the board. We still have big tempo from our leader ability, and hopefully big Bear Witcher Mentor, which we might need to rush a little bit, depending on how aggressive they are with removal. Okay, Plunderer no longer has a good card to damage on their side, so yeah, they'll just damage us instead, which is removing one of our engines, so solid value for them. We would like to keep cards damaged and not removed if possible, which is kind of what they were doing to a certain extent. I mean, you are an engine, you will get rid of the armor there to boost yourself. Is that reason enough to remove you? Yeah, it might be. So, oof. Little tough to set. Well, no, this is not that difficult. It's just this. So they might still be able to play, yeah, unit with armor. Get the boosts on you. That does lend itself pretty well to a Brokvar Warrior here. So I think we probably do that. And then we're trying to basically just keep this relatively low scoring until last turn we go Leader Ability and Bear Witcher Mentor for some serious tempo. Don't forget, Abordage needs to go before we play one of our pirates. And in fact, that might... And we only have one pirate left. So I am concerned, knowing myself, that I'm going to forget that. But I do still think this is the right time to do... I think... Just debating whether we want to try to remove you or just keep you damaged. Sure, let's go 1, 2, and 3. Okay, another light longship. Okay, so there are lots of damaged cards, so it is possible to go Bear Witcher Mentor here, but I think now is where we go Abordage, hit you, you become damaged. Certainly have the Bloodthirst for Raiders, and we can hit you, drop you down to 1. That means you probably stay on 1 power indefinitely, which would be really nice to try to keep a good board state for Bear Witcher Mentor. So let's do this. Play you, we also see what we draw into, which, oh, is amazing. Okay, I love that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, although it might get destroyed. These, I mean, I hope you don't destroy that. Deliberately put these in different rows in case you're going to play a Corsair, as I anticipated that might end up happening. Okay, so we do want to use Leader Ability now, because we are about to play a Bear Witcher Mentor, and it does give a little bit more pointage for Bear Witcher Mentors. So let's go, I guess, here. And... you put the infusion on this guy. Obviously, the warrior is very susceptible to the infusions, but we don't know if you're going to play another one of these Corsairs on your next turn. So, I think we still act on the assumption that we stay away from the melee row now. So, this is why I was keen on drawing into a Bear Witcher Mentor, because we had some serious late round potential. It's another Corsair. Okay, so yes, obviously they're going to target that guy. Fair enough. But even after this damage, we're still holding on for the lead, and as you can see, it would have been a huge finisher, but don't even need to play it. Alright, so going up against Skellige here, and we'll go first. Alright, so they're Ursine Ritual, which means there's a decent chance they have a lot of self-damage cards that like getting hit, and since we're a damage deck, that is a little scary. So, we'll see how that plays out. But, Warmonger is tricky to set up in some circumstances, except for self-damage. Bloodthirst should be very easy to reach, so the question is more so, do we even want to damage them in the first place? So, yes, you work. You guys can work, although not great in round 1. War of Clans, maybe not. Yeah, maybe we get some stuff that we're trying to save more for later rounds instead. Put back into our deck, because we could play veteran cards in round 1, of course, and we have still a couple, but then also needing the cards in our graveyard for War of Clans just makes things a little bit tricky. So I think we will play, well, under most circumstances, Longship first, but okay, we're going to find out just how much self-damage do they have. I mean, Greatsword is fantastic in this matchup, but almost anything else comes with some serious question marks. Bear Witcher Mentor could be awesome as well. Okay, Funeral Boat, which we could, and I'd argue probably should, just immediately remove. Possibly with Stratagem, it could be a pretty suboptimal Brokvar Warrior, although, as we were saying, do we really want to be dealing damage to their cards? I don't know. We could go Corsair, is actually quite efficient, because then it would trigger the Cataclysm on that row. Are we giving them an easy way to set up their self-damage cards? I still don't know. But we need to find that out at some point, so we will see. Okay, Alzur's Thunder is just pure damage. Between that and Funeral Boat, I'm wondering if they're more a raid damage deck, and maybe I'm reading too much into Ursine Ritual, but we'll see. Okay, but now with nothing on their side of the board for us to target, that does make things a little bit tricky here, especially because the only real engine we have in our hand is the Greatsword, but once again, if they don't have anything for us to go after with, we could put a leader ability charge out there to at least get it up to 5 power, but we know they have 5 power damage with Alzur's Thunder, so not loving this turn for that reason. I think we'll play a Raiders. It is a card that, under ideal circumstances, we'd like to save for later rounds where the veteran procs, but basically, you are a sacrificial lamb to see if we can better understand what the heck they are doing with this deck, because I'd rather lose you than lose a Greatsword. You'll get damaged, but not destroyed. Okay, I am getting the feeling they may also be using things like Bear Witcher Mentor. So now that they have something on the board, we can hit it with Raiders, which means we could play Greatsword, immediately get it boosted, although I am kind of thinking Greatsword is... still thinking Greatsword might need to be saved for round 2, round 3 as a key difference-making win condition, because otherwise, if they do at some point go the more self-damage route, then we're gonna find things really difficult. So that still means that this is not easy to decide what to go for here. It might be a suboptimal Brokvar Warrior. And we just, you're gonna get that. Alright, you know what? We're doing it. Because if we didn't, or if we played Brokvar Warrior, obviously we'd use the deployability for damage. But that would mean we'd be leaving a 1 power on Craite Raiders with an unused order ability, which just felt wrong. Berserker, we'll see who it hits. We'd like for it to be you. Your self-damage does help boost you. In fact, ooh, okay. They use leader ability charges to immediately flip it. That's highly suspicious. The only reason I could think for them doing that would be to maintain Bloodthirst, or because they plan on using a Bear Witcher Mentor very soon. They, of course, would need to wait for Adrenaline 3 for that to happen, so they still need to wait a bit longer. But I am very uncertain. It's a very strange matchup. So, once again, it still means we're going to have to play something suboptimally in all likelihood, unless we just go for a Stunning Blow here, which is not terrible. I'm not sure it's an ideal target. Obviously, it doesn't have armor, but it works. Don't really have reason to destroy you, because we potentially could benefit from playing our own. Bear Witcher Mentor, that is, unless, of course, you're about to heal it. Except, suddenly, this looks very interesting. I mean, we could go damaged, damaged, damaged in that order, but removing this, which is an engine, well, yeah, then we can follow up with Ceremonial Dagger. Okay, let's do that. That looks pretty good to me, then. Let's do 1, 2, 3, and then Ceremonial Dagger. Is this overkill? Yes, absolutely. But we have enough damage that we were probably going to be able to remove almost everything anyway. You know, we could play Brokvar Warrior on our next turn. But this has some potential if they do start going the healing route. So I think for that reason, we'll use that, especially because we might end up passing on our next turn, so we might as well use our stratagem now. Okay, so there you go. We'll win round 1. We do commit a Greatsword, which I'm still on the fence about, but hopefully that was worth it. Okay, and we did play one more card than our opponent, so we might look to dry pass here. Still lots of questions about what is and is not a good card to have in this matchup. Seagull, that could be a card that just sets them up, similar with all those guys. Bearwitcher Mentors, those are definitely great, so love drawing into the other one of those. I think maybe we will... I think we still keep all these. I mean, I want to draw into the other Greatsword, but... I mean... I guess you could have mulliganed Seagull. Part of me felt like, you know, there's still some carrier potential if we were to play in round 2 at all, but I don't think we are, so yeah, maybe you could mulligan that. Boat Builders. Armor. Ooh. Okay, don't like that. That is an indication potentially of more self-damage, though. Maybe the armor is a way to circumvent taking the actual damage. Okay, and I think it should be very easy to get the Bloodthirst 3 on Feral Bond. So that's good. Granted, we do have a lot of strong Skellige warriors in our starting deck. So, that may still not be amazing for us, but getting more damaged cards on their side of the board means Brokvar Archer could also be huge. I think we dump Seagull, and we draw the Greatsword perfect. I think this is... I mean, hard to say what the quote-unquote best hand is. Maybe a Freya's Blessing would be better still. I don't know what to make of this Warmonger. Or this... the damage itself, especially wide damage, I don't know what to make of. I'm hoping that Brokvar Archer certainly will have some high damage potential, and hopefully we can find at least one good target to pick off, and hopefully he has enough damage that even the cards that like to receive damage we could still remove. Okay, so they go Longship, and this is a very obvious Stunning Blow play, because it's a card we're okay with damaging, which the same potentially cannot be said for anything else they were going to play, and obviously it was a powerful engine, so good to just get rid of it. Okay, so this is what I mean. Svalbard Fanatic likes getting damaged. If we can do enough damage with something like Brokvar Archer, maybe we can outright remove it, and then we're fine. But if we're only doing a little bit of damage with things like Brokvar Warrior, then we're actually giving them points. So that's prime example of what I've been alluding to here. I think we can probably play Greatsword and still feel okay about that, because in round 3 is going to be a 6, and we know they potentially have as much as 5 damage, but I don't think they'd be able to get 6 in one turn, and you are an engine, so we would like to get you down early. I think that's safe. Okay, Hermit, there's their way to do the self-damaging, which does help boost up Greatsword or heal up Greatsword, and that's why I was saying he could potentially be a win condition for this round, so that still looks good. Now, getting 3 damage to remove Svalbard Fanatic, that is definitely doable. It could just be Brokvar Warrior outright removes. But is there a more creative way to do it? What if we War of Clans into Brokvar Warrior? We do that, you drop to 3 as something's getting destroyed. So I don't think we can benefit from damaging 2 separate units all that much. Well, I guess you go War of Clans. Oh no. No, I don't think we can make that work. So, in that case, yeah, just play directly and just remove. This could end up being a good target for Brokvar Archer because it will get reasonably tall. It'll still heal itself, so we don't really want to poke it with little bits and pieces of damage from things like Brokvar Warrior. So it will require some setup, but with leader ability charges, we can get a lot of damage cards on the board, and I have a feeling they're going to help us in that regard, and that is another card that we'd like to be able to outright remove before it gets out of removal range, because if it does, then it's another card that, since it can heal itself, it's not really good to hit it. So basically, remove it altogether, or don't touch it. and there's not a lot of room for in between. So could this be a War of Clans, drop you to a 2, and then Brokvar Warrior, maybe you hit this for 3, you settle for the fact that maybe it gets healed off, but you can still get the death blow as well. So you're removing one of these healing cards and maybe getting another one into removal range for later on. If it gets healed up, then so be it. I think you do that. Okay, well, there's their Greatsword. Okay, now if we could remove that, that would be even better than removing the Hermit, because this caps out at 7, whereas this caps out at 12. Can we get up to 6 damage? You have 2 damage units on the board. With leader ability, we can get 4 more, right? 3 directly from the charges and 1 from Patricidal himself, which means we should have just enough. Are we damaging ourselves at all in the process? No, we aren't, right? So that should be possible. Maybe there's a way with Feral Bomb, since we would have Bloodthirst 3, but off the top of my head, I'm not sure if there is a perfect solution there, so I'm gonna go for what is for sure here. Also gonna line up cards in the melee row for Warmonger later. Let's do this. I believe that is just enough. So now we have the Bloodthirst 5, unless they outright remove one of these cards, and we can just wipe this entire row. Hopefully they play more stuff in there, of course, get even better value, although it's actually, technically speaking, would be best to go more Feral Bonds first, then go Mentor. If you want to damage, like, you might destroy this, but if you only damage and not destroy, then that actually works pretty well for setting up our own Bear Witcher Mentor. Would not like for you to destroy your own guys with the... Ooh, that's perfect. But yeah, do not want you to destroy the Deafening Sirens, so that reduces the value on these guys. But let's go Feral Bond here. I think we're probably looking for... I mean, we don't really want to remove 1 power cards, because that's ideal for Bear Witcher Mentor. Don't really want to hit you unless we can outright remove you, so we'll see what we can do there. So... do we have a way? How damaged are you? You're damaged by 3. It drops you to 1. That's still not quite good enough. And you're just a point slam. You're a bit of an engine. If we didn't want to keep damage cards on the board, you'd be okay. But we do want to keep damage cards on the board. I think we might just keep it simple here. Lacerate. Okay, fair enough. We just won't play things in that row. We didn't go that far wide. Okay, so we're going to continue to add things to this. In fact, 1, 2, 3, 4. This would give them a 5th damaged unit, so hopefully we can still get the Bloodthirst 5 there, but they could use their leader ability charge to change that a bit. And still some questions as to what the best thing to do with the warrior we get here will be. I think it's probably another Disgraced Brawler. Otherwise, is there a more creative... I mean, there may be more creative solution. Brokvar Hunter is an engine, as would be the War Crier, wherever it is. But it's just a little bit late in the round, I think, for that. So maybe we keep it simple again. Putting them in the middle in case they happen to have a red haze. Okay, Corsair does not currently have anything to steal the armor from. Didn't they have... They had the boat builders they played in a previous round, wasn't it? So that might have been their plan to set it up. They might not have many ways left. Okay. Love that they... I mean, they didn't have any control over it, but the Bear Abomination ended up in this row where we are definitely going to hit it with the Warmonger on this turn. Well, actually, no. We want to go Mentors first. So we're hoping that they still maintain the same number of damaged cards. But this should be pretty solid point slam. So basically what we're doing is we're risking losing some value on the Warmonger. He might not have the Bloodthirst 5 by the time we actually play him on our last turn, in order to make sure that we get good value on the Mentor. Okay, that's how they're getting the armor. Because otherwise, you know, we remove all these guys and suddenly Mentor is much weaker. Okay. Armor Smith is not going to do much for them. We could Warmonger here and wipe out this row, but at this point, it doesn't matter. We already have a 28-point lead with a card to spare. So there's a look at a Skellige Warriors damage deck for the new Poor Man's Gwent seasonal event. If you liked the video, then make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and leave a comment down below to let me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions we should experiment with next. And take a look at our Poor Man's Gwent playlist to see previous decks that we've used in this event as well. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.